I got some serious cleaning I gotta do, but for now I want to make a little video because sometimes, I don't know why this happens, but like I'll go through trends where like one day I'll just be getting a bunch of K1000s and then the next week it's a bunch of ME Supers and then other times it's a bunch of AE1s, and it just kind of depends. Like it's just an interesting thing that happens from time to time. But for whatever reason, the past couple of days, I've gotten a bunch of AE-1 programs. And not only just AE-1 programs, but black AE-1 programs. I have 2 of these in from customers right now, and I have a silver AE-1 program. Now this is the more traditional model. This is probably what you've seen more often because it's, standard pretty much. I don't know the exact numbers, but I don't believe there were as many black AE-1 programs made as there were these. So it's more likely you'll see these models. However, I think these are better, personally. Not only do I think they look better, I think that the green font on the program really pops a lot more on the black. But also, too, and this is a very interesting thing that nobody besides me probably would notice and or care about, is this bottom is actually metal, and that is fantastic. This is pretty much, I believe, the same bottom used on the A1, which I think is also a metal bottom there, but I'm just pulling from memory, so I could be wrong. But this is a metal bottom and only has the 2 screws, which is different than the silver, which is a plastic metal composite, and it has 3 screws. So that alone is fairly interesting. But more interesting is that this is different than the AE1 because there are 4 contact ports for auto winders as opposed to the 2 in the AE1. So that's pretty much that all concluded. I thought that would be a much more longer point when I was setting up this video. I was just thinking I want to talk more about why I think this one is better than this one. And honestly, outside of they serve the same functions, this one is actually very broken. So right now this is a terrible camera, just by virtue of the fact that it doesn't really work as a camera at the moment. But best case scenario, this thing works as well as this one does. Why would I pick this one over this one? And outside of the visual aesthetic and the metal bottom, there's really no reason between these 2 that I would have this one, because it's the same thing. I do have the aversion to the plastic composites just because you get little dings and little nicks and stuff, and you get these little scratches and stuff just from looking at it the wrong way. And this is also going to get marked up pretty good. You can see even on this near mint looking thing, there's still some scratches and stuff, but it just fills me with a little bit more confidence. I don't think that the top is metal. I believe this is also plastic composite, but point being, I just think visually this camera just looks so much more striking, and I almost prefer this look to the A1 because I think the A1, there's still a lot going on with it. There's a lot of different parts. There's that big bulbous thing on the front here to push up and down so you don't accidentally select the toggle wheel. And it's got the big ASA and exposure compensation dial going on. And this is just a little bit more refined, I think. Overall, visually, it's a little bit more boiled down and basic. And I just really like this little patch of rubber here that sits over top of the advance lever. I just think overall this is a much more attractive looking camera than the A1. It's a little bit more simple, and I think that this looks fine, but there's just something about the black that I just think really pops, and the metal bottom I think just is another thing that sets it above. So that's all good and dandy. Now, the other reason I want to talk about this is because I think this is just significantly a better camera than the AE1. I made another video about it, I think, semi-recently, probably over a year ago by now, but I think that in terms of developing the system, this definitely did a lot because it does have the program feature, which means you can basically just set it to program and it will select the shutter speed for you. And I think that's pretty helpful. Like if you're either not in the mood to think, or if you're just kind of getting into photography and you don't understand it yet, like that just gives you that other option. I think the option of the grip on here is nice because it just adds a little bit more ergonomic ease to using the camera. I think the light meter on this one is a lot easier to read, and it's also just a lot better system. The electronics on this are much more future-proof, I would say, and I think that the shutter speed dial is just a much better system here. And then also the little dust cover here, I just think works so much better. It just, this works for me. I don't know. I like that a lot. You can just kind of select. It's very quick, easy to use. I feel like the other one's a little bit clunkier. And then the lifting up to select the ASA, it's just so much easier to just do this because think about it, you're popping the film in. You just pop the film in, close it up, do that, and then you're good to go. And it feels like a very congruent motion of use that I enjoy. I think the on-off toggle is very great as well. I prefer that to the toggle on the shutter button itself. I never really liked that too much, and I don't like the self-timer when you kick that out, it sticks over top of the camera. I just never really liked that. I've never used the AE-1 self-timer outside of testing it though, so I'm not the authority on those matters, but I just prefer this. The one thing I don't like about this is the beeping for the battery check. I think the fact that there's a speaker in the camera makes it a little bit more annoying, but that being said, it's not like a huge deal at all. The blinking LED for the self-timer and the battery check for the AE-1, I feel like it's a lot easier to read, but overall, I do prefer this camera just a lot more. I think they're much easier to work on. The top is much easier to remove. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, like the base components of this, let me see, I have one here. This is an AE-1 program, I believe, and or an AE-1. I think it's a program. But this basically is identical to an AE-1, except for this feature right here. There's a fly in here, which is the mounting for the battery grip. But other than that, like all of the components in here are virtually the same. The shutter's essentially the same. The electronics are different, but that's all the stuff that gets added on. But the body itself is pretty much identical. So you're pretty much going to have all of the same problems that you're going to have with an AE-1 with the program, which is the shutter squeal, the aperture squeal, and occasional electrical shortages are similar throughout them, i.e. the auto firing and other related issues. But anyway, the shutter squeal is when you fire and the mirror runs super slow. I think this one has it. Nope, I don't actually have one that has it because I just am so good at fixing them. Unfortunate. And then the aperture squeal is when you advance the camera, you shoot this in, and then moving this, it sounds like it's a bad sound. That one's very difficult to test for because people don't know about it. And that's likely to brick your camera more than anything, because if that goes unchecked for too long, the aperture blades won't close up. So you'll be telling your camera that I'm shooting at f/22, and it won't actually actuate to f/22. So your images will become overexposed. So that's bad, obviously. Overall though, this camera's great. I just have Mini in right now, and I don't think I've had a black AE-1 program in at the same time as a silver one, or at least like side by side, and I was just like, dang, I actually really prefer this. Like, I don't really like either of these cameras like all that much, to be honest. I've enjoyed shooting with them, but they're just not my cup of tea. I prefer different systems, but in terms of which if I had all the money in the world, I could pick one, I would probably go for this because I think the metal bottom sets it apart. I think the looks, the aesthetic, it just looks much cleaner. It just looks much more reserved and much more professional. I think this looks good. I think I've just seen so many of these not look good that I've become a little bit wary to them, and I just really don't like this. And I don't know if you can hear the sound, but the feel of it's just different. It just, versus like this, which again kind of sounds the same, but there's just a different feeling of confidence I have in this, because I know that like it doesn't take much for this to just get thrashed completely. And I don't know, there's just something different about it that I prefer the metal. So that's my personal opinion. They're literally the same camera outside of the bottom, which is not going to bother anyone but me, and I only find it mildly interesting. So don't be like, oh, I watched this video on the internet and this guy said I had to spend extra money to get the black one. Like, they're literally the same thing. It's all preference based. My opinion is just that I like this one more, but feel free to have whatever opinion you would like. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. AE-1 programs, they're pretty great. I definitely think they're much better than AE-1s, but I also think that the AE-1 is a great camera as well. So, to each their own. But thank you so much for watching. I think that'll do it for now. I gotta get back to my laundry, so I am going to stop recording. But thank you again for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more content. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and catch you on the next one.